like you said, potentially sourcing stuff closer to where you make it. I've heard some phrases such as is micro regional, micro local, right? So sourcing stuff locally for the local market can help from you know buy America and some of those requirements for some of those customers, right? But it can also just help from a working capital standpoint, which I think is really a great comment you had there.
Yeah, I think a lot of, especially at an operating level, a lot of lean exercises don't necessarily totally account for working capital improvements, and we struggled with it in the beginning too, and forced it into our calculation to say what's the savings from a working capital perspective. Every business has a cost of capital. Tesla's is zero, ours is not zero. So you have to factor that into your supply chain lead. So, and I think basic principles still apply here. When you look at value stream mapping as another example, I mean, it's that basic lean principle is very, very important, whether it's on the shop floor or you're looking at a global supply chain. When you value stream map and you do a Kaizen event around your supply chain, taking cost out of your supply chain, out of your lead times, that's still a practice that has a lot of value today. And then ultimately you can bring in, where is the supply base? I think we've seen a tremendous improvement in the supply base in low-cost locations like Mexico. And so the need to be fully in China isn't as great as it was, say, a decade ago. So we've seen a tremendous improvement. We're a very high mix, low volume type of business. We're not an automotive business where we make the same thing a million times. I used to call it custom high volume in automotive because everybody wanted their own flavor, but then they bought a lot of them. And our business is very much take the core and modify it for every customer application. And so we're transforming our business from a thought process of insourcing everything to bringing in suppliers and looking at the supply base, but they need to be close. We can't afford to have a bunch of custom parts on boats for 6 weeks.
Yeah, you said something there that I think is really, really smart. And I think the principles are timeless, right? So if we look at reducing waste, again, is good. Value stream mapping is a methodology, and as ongoing continuous improvement is something we always want to do. I think where a lot of folks are getting in trouble historically are some of the assumptions that go into the variables, right? And that, one of the better ones is, okay, China is the lowest cost. That's not a default answer these days with tariffs and a lot of other things, right? Or, hey, this is the appropriate risk for this commodity, right? So if I'm buying a stamping of this size, it's of course going to be this much risk I get assigned to this, which is going to impact my model, and I can source off that. But especially that risk variable is changing over time, and what we're finding is these black swan events are predictably unpredictable, but at the same time they do happen like clockwork, right? So they're, they are maybe a little higher risk and maybe not as infrequent as what we maybe had in some of our models.